Good evening. Just double checking.
I do it like Pink Floyd.
Again, this is specifically for items not to be heard on the agenda. I'm seeing no participation through the interaction.
Thank you. The consent agenda for items number 2 and 3. Items calendar for consent will be approved in one motion without a public hearing unless a member of the Planning Commission or the audience requests that the item be removed from the consent calendar and heard separately. Is there anyone on the commission who would like to? Seeing none, could I have a motion?
I make a motion we accept the consent items as presented.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Roll call.
Commissioner Sanga,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushtaller,
Yes.
Commissioner Midgley,
Yes.
Commissioner Grunsky,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. Then we have an action item. 1, use permit number PA 1800-316.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This project was heard at the August 20th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting after having been continued from earlier in the year. On November 19th, 2020, the applicant requested a continuance for the project, which was granted. At the December 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, a planning commissioner was absent and a motion was made and voted on to continue the project to the December 17th Planning Commission date because the commission believed this project needed to be heard by a full commission. On December 17th, 2020, the applicant requested a continuance, which was granted. The project was scheduled for the February 18th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, but was continued due to technical difficulties. In the August 20th meeting, the Planning Commission raised concern about the project regarding whether the project was too big for the applicant to successfully manage, the size of the chicken enclosure, the configuration of the manure storage building, and the number of proposed chickens. The Planning Commission instructed Community Development Department staff to work with the applicant team to revise the project. Since that meeting, the applicant revised the project by reducing the number of chickens from a maximum of 1,500 to a maximum of 1,000 chickens. The manure will be collected from the site a minimum of twice a week and hauled off-site to a bona fide disposal facility a minimum of once per week. This is more frequent than was previously proposed. Additionally, the applicant now proposes to store the manure in a fully enclosed 100 square foot building. The size of the fenced chicken enclosure has been increased from 6,000 square feet to 19,000 square feet. Also, the applicant proposes to hire 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees to aid in operations management. The project site is located on the south side of West Delta Avenue, 3,000 feet east of South MacArthur Drive in Tracy. The project site has a general plan designation of General Agriculture, or AG, and a zoning designation of General Agriculture 40-acre minimum, or AG 40. This aerial photo depicts the project site. The surrounding parcels are primarily agricultural with scattered residences. This image depicts a project radius map. The smallest concentric circle represents a 1,000-foot radius from the project site. Each subsequent circle represents a 2,000-foot radius and a 3,000-foot radius, respectively. There is 1 house within 1,000 feet of the project site. There are 4 houses within 1,000 feet and 2,000 feet of the project site. And there are 5 houses from 2,000 feet to 3,000 feet of the project site. This is a copy of the revised site plan submitted by the applicant. I'll light up the area here. So this area here depicts the fenced chicken enclosures, and it depicts the manure storage building. This picture depicts the floor plan for the proposed chicken coops provided by the applicant. The floor plan is designed to facilitate the collection of eggs and to streamline cleaning. The applicant's animal processing activities will be small in scope. An average of 1 animal per day will be processed. However, processing may not occur every day. The applicant has provided confirmation that Sisk Recycling, a bona fide tallow plant for disposal, has the capacity to accommodate the tallow generated from this animal processing operation. The proposed animal processing facility will be regulated by the California Department of Food and Agriculture, or CDFA. CDFA requires any building permitted for animal processing to have a concrete floor so the ground and the groundwater are not contaminated with animal waste. The animal processing is proposed in a 1,600 square foot portion of a 4,000 square foot building. Development Title Section 9-605.3A states that the applicant may expand the processing building by a maximum of 25% of floor area, provided the proposed expansion, in the opinion of the director, will not have an adverse effect on any adjacent property. If the expansion exceeds 25% of floor area, then a new land use permit is required. A maximum of 35 chickens are permitted by right on parcels 3 acres or larger in size, and only 3 can be roosters. An approved discretionary application for animal raising small use type is required for the projects that will exceed this number of chickens. To address the concerns of the Planning Commission from a previous meeting in August, the applicant has reduced the maximum number of chickens proposed from 1,500 to 1,000 chickens and revised their plans for manure removal. Additionally, the applicant has increased the size of the chicken enclosures from 6,000 square feet to 19,000 square feet. A revised manure management plan reflecting the revised project has been approved by the Environmental Health Department. The manure management plan includes details that are consistent with the information contained in the initial study, mitigated negative declaration. Specifically, that chicken manure will be raked a minimum of twice a week and stored in a fully enclosed 100 square foot building that opens to one side facing the east, opposite of the predominant wind direction. Additionally, the applicant will be required to collect manure twice weekly and the removal of the manure from the site a minimum of once per week for disposal by a reputable company. This requirement is included in the recommended conditions of approval. The applicant states he intends to use one of two bona fide operators for manure disposal, Ralph Hazen's Son or Kiefer Landfill in Sacramento County. The applicant may also choose to dispose of manure at a different reputable company that will accept animal waste. To address the concerns of the Planning Commission regarding staffing, the applicant now proposes to have up to 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees to help manage the day-to-day activities of the operation. The Community Development Department received 2 letters of support for the project from the Farm Bureau and 2 letters of support from the general public. These letters are included in Attachment B of the staff report. Since the Planning Commission meeting in August, the Community Development Department has received letters of opposition from the City of Lathrop, various neighbors, and an opposition petition with 13 signatures. These letters are also included in Attachment B of the staff report, titled Letters of Opposition. The concerns raised in these letters include air quality, pest control, water quality, and aesthetics. The letters received were similar in nature to the letters previously received on the project. This photo was taken along West Delta Road, looking south at the access driveway for the project site. In the top right side of the picture, you can see the raised pad. This picture depicts a field on the parcel south of the project area. This photo was taken in front of an opposing neighbor's property, looking northwest towards the elevated pad of the project site. This picture was taken on the elevated pad, looking southeast towards an opposing neighbor's property. This photo was taken on the elevated pad, looking northeast. This picture was taken on the elevated pad, looking north. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
At the last meeting before we went into technical oblivion, was the letter from the city of Lathrop asking that an air quality report be done? Was that ever looked into?
So staff has reviewed the letter, and there was a response letter from the Air Pollution Control District that stated that the project would have a less than significant impact on air quality. Additionally, San Joaquin County has a right to farm ordinance, and in that ordinance it states that agricultural odors and among other things as a result of agricultural activities are not to be considered a nuisance. So staff determined that that wouldn't be required.
Can I just ask another question? So the letter came in. Have you responded back to the city of Lathrop saying just what you repeated here?
Sir, that information is included in the staff report. And
I did not see that, so.
Question on elevated pad, all the buildings.
I'm sorry, can you speak louder, please?
On the elevated pad, 3-acre pad,
Okay.
correct? Okay, and that, I'm having a little trouble with this map. Is that all going to be, all these operations are going to be on this 3-acre pad?
Yes, sir. The animals will be kept on fenced enclosures on the pad, and the chicken pad is 19,000 square feet.
Question?
So I didn't have a question, but I do have a comment. I did go and visit the site a couple times in the last 4 weeks. I went there on a windy day just to see how much smell is there, odor is there in the wind when it's, Tracy is known for being a little bit windy. I also tried to stand at, it looked odd, but I was there in a friendly manner to stay at a distance and see where the next house is, how much does the odor will go, because usually it is windy, and like you said, it is San Joaquin County's agricultural area that is AG zoned, it's agriculture zoned. It's not like it's going into somebody's residence and creating something different. So I did drive around. Again, like I said, I didn't have permission to be on somebody's property, but I did spend significant time there because it falls into the District 5, and it's pretty far away from other homes. The closest home within the 1,000 square foot is only one house that I saw besides the property. The property is pretty spread out. It's not congested. I saw the walls being constructed for that, lack of a better word, whatever, the chicken poop, however you want to say it, manure or whatever it is. So even though I'm new to this, I wanted to make sure that, coming from Tracy representing that area, I wanted to do my due diligence and my homework, which I did. I do understand there will be some kind of smell because no matter where you are around the area when you are in an agricultural zone, there will be some smell coming, whether it's a factory, industrial, we are by Leprino Foods, the cheese smell comes there. And I was on the Tracy Planning Commission where people would complain about the cheese smell coming out of that area where it was being produced. So there is always some give and take, not that I'm making anything less significant for those who have complained or brought up. Again, with the city of Lathrop, complaining that I did not see that in there, but as it was described, that it is at a significant level where it is bearable, knowing in the category we fall in this particular county. So I just wanted to say that I did spend time twice staying there, watching, drove around, stood around, and it looks like they're doing a decent job. I did not go on the property, but standing on the sides on Delta Avenue and on the side that you showed in one of the pictures here, it is pretty far away from the residents that are in the area. There is only one residence which is about 1,000 in the vicinity of about 1,000 square feet. So I just wanted to bring that to the board that, it is not, will it start stinking when it's really windy? I don't know, but twice when I went there, it was windy and there was not, I understand there's not too many chickens right now. I didn't see too many anyways. But I think it's pretty far away from residences. It is doing what it's supposed to do. You're in the agricultural land. You're in the vicinity where it's supposed to be, farms. Cows could be there, sheep could be there, chickens could be there. So I didn't find, not that I'm an expert, but as much as I know with my experience, I did not find anything that was objectionable at the level that I found that I can say, hey, this is what needs to be done. So reading the report thoroughly and visiting that place, I find it pretty decently done. So whoever the applicant is, I just want to say that, you did a decent job creating it the way you did create it. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Staff recommendation, please.
Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt mitigated negative declaration, which is attachment C of the staff report. and approve use permit number PA 1800316 with the recommended findings for use permit, Williamson Act principles of compatibility, and conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
Thank you. We have the applicant and his representative come forward, one at a time.
(3031) West March Lane, Suite 230 in Stockton. I am Land Use Counsel for the applicant, Command Sergeant Major Retired Ahmed Hussein. I am joined tonight by Mr. Hussein. You will see him in the back in his farmer overalls, fresh from birthing some baby goats this evening. And we're also joined by Dylan Wooten from Shack & Company, the engineer on the project. I'd like to give a brief roadmap here and start by saying I do extend compliments to Director Kwong and Mr. Sanfilippo for their work on this project. As the Commission's aware, it has been modified on more than one occasion, and there's been a lot of staff time that has gone into addressing each modification, and I think they've done a very thorough job addressing the project, the issues, and the comments that have been raised. If acceptable to the chair, I will be turning it over to Mr. Wooten in just a moment to discuss the key design elements of the project and some of the changes from the earlier version that the Commission received in August. But before I do that, and after that, I would like to come back and summarize the applicant's presentation. Before I do that, I would like to talk a little bit about the operational ramp up for this project. I was not hired until December, but I did go back and watch the August Planning Commission hearing. And at that time, the earlier version of the project that was proposed, there were a lot of questions from the Commission about kind of the operational ramp up and when and where and how the applicant will get to the point of having the total number of chickens. So I thought it would be good to go through that for the Commission so that the Commission understands that this project is not going to go from 30 to 1,000 chickens overnight. The process would take several years to reach that 1,000 chicken cap, if at all, and that's only if the market dictates the need for having 1,000 chickens on the site. Procedurally, once this Commission grants its approval of a conditional use permit, the applicant then has 18 months to start satisfying the conditions, which means getting building permits, installing septic, building the structures, building the infrastructure on site. And that is a process that will likely take 12 to 18 months to even get that going. This is not a phased development, as is authorized by the department's application process. This is a single phase development, so that means in 18 months, everything's got to be completed to be able to move forward with the project. Once that is done, and Mr. Hussein can then add more than 35 chickens on site, he will go to the point of purchasing 200 vaccinated baby chicks. It will take about 4 to 6 months for the chicks to mature till they're producing eggs. So once they're mature, they'll start producing eggs, and then a second batch of 200 vaccinated chickens will be purchased. So within 2 to 3 years, there will likely be about 400 chickens on the site. From there, Mr. Hussein will only be adding chickens if there is a market demand for eggs of more chickens. If the demand's there, chickens will be added. If the demand is not there, they won't be. Those of us that own or have managed businesses in our careers know that there's a certain amount of time to ramp up, and we don't put the full infrastructure or workforce or commodities in place unless there's actually an economic demand for those things. This is a family farming operation, but as chickens are added and the assistance of additional help is needed, there will be additional employees hired. That's why that's been added to the application. But this 1,000 chicken number is a ceiling, not a floor. and it may be that the project never actually reaches that ceiling. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Wooten to talk about the project design, and then I will return to briefly wrap up, and I will address some of the issues about odor at that point too.
Good evening. My name is Dylan Wooten, and I work for Joaquin Company. I'm the associate engineer that was assigned this project. I'd like to take this time to go over the revised site plan, building and manure management plan. You can please refer to detail A of the site plan. Above the crosshatched lines is where the 4,000 square foot building will be located. It will be split into two sections comprising of 1,600 square feet for animal processing and 2,400 square feet for agricultural storage and office space. The animal processing is small in scope and will only process one animal a day, and that may not occur every day. After processing, Mr. Hussein will take the renderings and place them in a sealed container and deliver directly to SIS Recycling. After each processing, he will use a pressure washer to clean the concrete. This waste will go directly into a dedicated 1,400 gallon blood storage tank so that the groundwater does not get contaminated. Once the tank is 3/4 full, SIS Recycling will come out and pump it. Directly west of the 4,000 square foot building is where the animals will be living. I added fenced areas to show where each animal will live. There is a 13,000 square foot goat pen, 7,000 square foot sheep pen, and a 19,000 square foot chicken pen. In the middle of the chicken pen, 800 square foot ag barns will be.
Sir, can you give me the numbers of the goats? Kind of visualize this.
The number of goats,
Right.
I believe there are going to be 50 goats, or 25. 25 goats, I'm sorry.
Maximum.
Max, yes. And total chickens will be 1,000.
Right. And then how many sheep?
Sheep, 25. Yes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All this you're explaining to us is on the three.
Yeah, well, the elevated pad is where the building is going to be, and then directly west of that is where the chicken, all the pen will be housed, and where the ag barns will be.
That'll be down below.
Correct. In the middle of the chicken pen are where two 800 square foot ag barns will be, and where a 100 square foot enclosed manure building will be. Each of the barns has the ability to house 500 chickens. There are 3 levels of nesting boxes on each side of the buildings, along with 2 rows of roosting T-bars. There are also 4 2-foot by 2-foot openings in each building, so the chickens have access to the outside and therefore be considered free range. These details are all shown on the 20 by 40 ag barn floor plan. On December 18th, 2018, the use permit was deemed complete for processing. Mr. Hussein's original submittal included a request for up to 3,000 chickens. After the August 20th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting, he listened to the Commission's concerns and has since scaled back the count to 1,500 and now 1,000. The manure management plan has also been revised and approved by EHD. Previously, the manure was going to be stored in one of the ag barns in a 3-sided container and removed monthly. We have since added a dedicated 100 square foot fully enclosed building. The manure will now be raked twice a week and stored in the building. It will then be loaded in a trailer and taken to Kiefer Landfill or Ralph Hayes & Sons or an approved disposal facility a minimum of once per week. Don Chesney, who is a registered civil engineer and an expert in manure management, prepared the manure management plan. He is a professional who calculated the manure load and what would be needed to store the manure. Please take into consideration the approval for this project. This business will be a success.
Questions? I got a couple questions for you. Have you any plan for fly abatement type situation?
There has been abatement taken care of. Is
I didn't see anything.
that correct, Giuseppe? Yeah, I believe it's in the staff report. And the manure management plan.
So the 1,400-gallon tank is just for project.
Yes, that's,
And the residents will have their separate tank whenever the residence is.
yeah, that it's just a blood storage tank, so all the pressure washed blood basically and water will go into that storage tank and be pumped.
Are the home and the caretaker's home same level of, or are they below the pad?
They will need to be elevated as well. They're in the floodplain.
On the 3-acre pad?
Yeah, that will be separated from the existing pad that's there now.
Do you have an option of any of this manure? Because I understand he owns 40,
Yes.
and he's farming that. Is there an option to spread this manure?
That was brought up, and it was he was going to spread it around, but I think the nitrogen levels were a little high, so it was better for him to just rake it, store it, and then have it taken away.
I know the disposal cost is very expensive whether you have. On the egg marketing, tell us how that's going to happen. Before, to be honest with you, before, collect eggs every other day. Give them away to friends and family.
Yeah, he has a daily farm activities that he's provided. He'll have 2 full-time laborers in the beginning, and as he ramps up and more laborers are needed, he'll go to 3 part-time laborers. That'll be 5 people total. He's going to start at 7 in the morning and end at 5 p.m., and it's going to run 7 days a week. I can go through the daily activities if you'd like. Okay.
Where's the marketing for that?
That would probably be a question for Mr. Hussein.
Question? Thank you.
Again, Chair Hamilton and Commissioners, for the record, Brett Jolly on behalf of the applicant. Before I get into my closing remarks, to answer the question that you had just asked, Chair Hamilton, about the marketing for the eggs, Mr. Hussein currently already takes what small eggs he's producing and he sells them at farmers markets. He takes them to church festivals. He gives them to family and friends. There's an increased opportunity for that, but again, unless and until there is a demand, he will not be adding the number of chickens to reach that 1,000 mark unless there's actually demand. At this point, one of his major buyers are the judges and staff at the San Mateo County Courthouse. He currently lives in San Mateo, plans to move over and build his house on his property, but he goes and participates in the farmers market there, and apparently the courthouse staff is one of his biggest customers. With that, I would like to talk a little bit about the project and why we really think it's appropriate to be approved. Ronald Reagan said the most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." And so I think that's a little fitting here as we think about what the Planning Commission's role is in considering this project. The Commission's role is not to act as a super regulatory body. Rather, the role of the Commission is to review projects, determine whether they're compatible with the planning, general plan and zoning, and if they're appropriate for the community, and to provide conditions and address concerns of neighbors to trying to find compatibility between land uses. And that's somewhat how this process has played out. It started with 3,000 chickens, and there was concern raised through the review process. And so it was reduced to 1,500 and brought to this commission. And at that hearing in August, there were many concerns raised about the number of 1,500 chickens and whether that was too many for the location. And there were concerns about the actual design of the housing for the chickens, the manure management, and other issues. So the commission asked or made a motion for the project to go back and for the applicant to work with staff to revise it and address some of those concerns. The applicant did that, and that's what brings us here tonight. Primarily, as Mr. Wooten noted, we've reduced the cap from 1,500 to 1,000. So we provided basically a 33% reduction or reduction in the total number of chickens. The chicken coops have been enlarged to make sure that there is sufficient capacity for all of those chickens. That was a concern of Commissioner Maury at that August meeting, and that's been fully addressed now by Shack and Company's redesign. And another issue that was really of concern was how the manure would be managed to prevent issues with odor, flies, runoff, and other issues. And that has been addressed through this creation of the dedicated enclosed 10 by 10 foot concrete floor building that will hold the manure. The manure is going to be collected twice weekly, and it's going to be hauled off site each week, as opposed to when it was proposed monthly previously. And with that and those regulations, the project is going to be thoroughly regulated by multiple agencies. We've got the manure management plan that's in your staff report that's been prepared by a licensed engineer who addresses these very issues and who's calculated the appropriate collection volume and haul off. That document has been reviewed by the county's own experts at the Environmental Health Department and agreed that that is an appropriate manure management plan. So much so that the reclamation district that had previously raised concerns about this project has notified staff that their concerns have been addressed through the new manure management plan and they no longer oppose. You're going to have the water board who's actively involved in regulating and making sure that we're not having effluent runoff coming and ruining water quality standards. They're supportive of the manure management plan. The California Department of Food and Agriculture is going to oversee both the egg processing and the meat processing on site. They support the project, and they even noted that small farms like this are needed, particularly in times where we can't all get to the grocery stores, as we have experienced in the last year. Regarding odor, the Air Quality Management District has reviewed the project on several occasions each time, and has determined the project as designed and conditioned will not create significant air quality or odor problems. Now, the city of Lathrop has submitted a letter and said, we disagree, we'd like you to do an environmental impact report. But legally, that's not the standard. The standard isn't, we disagree with the expert's conclusion, so we want you to do more. The Air District is the expert agency. They have conducted this. They have provided evidence that the odor and air quality impacts have been adequately addressed and mitigated. And Lathrop has not presented any evidence to the contrary or reached a legal threshold to require anything more. They've expressed concern. That's not enough. The experts have weighed in and said this is sufficient. Regarding the vectors, mosquitoes, flies, we do have the San Joaquin Mosquito and Vector Control District that will be regulating that aspect of the project. And then finally, if and when, not going to happen, but if and when this project fell out of compliance with the conditions or with the standards, we do have the San Joaquin County Community Development Department Code Enforcement Division. That's why code enforcement exists, to make sure that projects that are approved stay compliant with their conditions and operate in a legal manner. So considering all of these issues, it's really important to remember that this is an agricultural project in the middle of the AG40 zone. This is the appropriate zone for this use type. There's no other use type where you would put a farming operation like this. And as a policy of the county, the Board of Supervisors has recognized that there may be potential incompatibility between residents and ag production in the ag zones. And to do that, they enacted the Right to Farm Ordinance. And the Right to Farm Ordinance, in short, says farming is a priority and residents of property on or near agricultural land should be prepared to accept the inconveniences or discomforts associated with agricultural operations or activities, including but not limited to noise, odors, insects, fumes, dust, the operation of machinery of any kind during any 24-hour period, the application of spraying or otherwise of chemical fertilizers, soil amendments, seeds, herbicides, and pesticides, the storage of livestock feed and other agricultural commodities, and the storage, application, and disposal of manure. San Joaquin County has determined that inconveniences or discomforts associated with such agricultural operations or activities shall not be considered to be a nuisance. The county has laid down its policy that it wants to continue to encourage farming operations in the ag zone, despite the fact that it may increase discomfort for persons who have elected to reside in that zone. So bearing these factors in mind, the project is designed to comply with all laws and regulations to protect the neighbors and the environment. It's going to be heavily regulated. It promotes family farming. It's a key element of San Joaquin County policy. And this farming operation is going to be in good hands. Mr. Hussain's 30 years in the Army shows strong discipline, attention to detail, and ability to plan, and strength of character. So based on this, we request the Commission adopt staff's recommendation and approve the project as it's been modified tonight. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions if the Commission has some.
It's just a quick question. So the best case scenario is he's got 1,000 chickens. That's for Mr. Hussain, and the worst case for the neighbors is 1,000 chickens. There's a limit to this, correct?
Correct.
That number is 1,000 chickens. That
Correct,
will be
Mr.
scaled up
Bransky.
over years. You know, if he has 200 chickens and can't sell the eggs, generally in capitalism, the solution is not to get 800 more chickens, you know, if there's no market for it. So it would be, the market will dictate, but it will dictate it up to a limit of 1,000 chickens, pretty much no matter what, or he has to get another permit, correct?
That's correct. I would love to add 80 attorneys to my office and have a legal empire, but that only makes sense if there's enough work for 80 attorneys.
I think that'd be terrible for the community. More lawyers. Okay, that's just what I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jolly.
Thank you.
Before we go on, is there anyone else like to speak?
This would be an opportunity if you are participating through Microsoft Teams and wish to speak in favor of the project. You can unmute yourself and submit your comments. Again, this is for people looking to speak on item number 1, PA-1800316, in favor of the project.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Fernando Mayan with the California Department of Food and Agriculture. And, you know, I'm glad I'm able to definitely make a comment based on this project. It's been ongoing, and just want to make a couple comments that CDFA is definitely in favor of this project as the applicant and Mr. Jolly had mentioned that, during this time and last year, that absolutely this is totally in favor of trying to feed the community. In addition to that, California Department of Food and Agriculture definitely is one of the regulatory agencies that basically is geared towards food safety and environmental safety as well. Just for a little bit more comments, just for the understanding, with this type of operation, not only that it was monitored by basically the owner, this would be definitely monitored by the agencies who are inspectors on a routine-based inspection. So that's all I have to say, and I'm definitely in favor for this project.
Is there anyone else out there would like to speak in favor of this project.
Do we have anyone else looking to speak in favor of this project? This would be your time to address the commission. I am seeing no other participants that are in favor of the project.
This time, is there anyone out there that would like to speak against this project that you do?
This would be the opportunity for those who are looking to speak in opposition of project. That's the item number 1, PA-1800316. Right. It looks like we do have a number of people in the lobby. Go with Stephen Rao, please.
You want me to turn my video on?
A video feed is not necessary, sir. Just audio only would be fine.
All right, fine, thank you. Yeah, my name is Steve Rao, and I'm an attorney representing the Costamagna families and their affiliated companies who own parcels directly adjacent to the east of the project site. And I'm going to give you a little plain talk instead of the fast talk you've been getting so far tonight, because you've asked some good questions which I feel like have not really been addressed. My co-counsel, Scott Ivey from McCormick Barstow, and I have previously submitted numerous objections and oppositions to taking any action on this permit until a legally compliant environmental impact review has been performed. Gloria Costamagna and Joseph Costamagna, some of my clients, have also submitted written opposition. Compelling comments and opposition from numerous other parties and landowners have also been submitted, and I commend you for having looked at those, particularly the opposition comments from the city of Lathrop and Califia LLC, which we fully agree with. I'm only going to really touch on 3 significant issues today, and these have been previously raised by the Costamagnas and other parties. Again, before rushing forward with this discretionary permit approval, we urge the Commission to require the completion of a full EIR as clearly required by law and the facts related to all of this application. And what I've heard tonight, in my view, you have not gotten accurate answers to some of the questions that you've asked, and so hopefully some of my comments will help you get the right answers. So I have 3 basic items that I want to talk about. First is the staff report concludes there will be no aesthetic impacts because of the large distance between it and residences. I just go back a little bit. This is what the staff report says. This is inaccurate. We estimate there to be over 10 homes in the immediate area of the project, and one of those is only about 750 feet away from the pad. The staff report itself confirms there are several residences located between 850 and 1,700 feet from the project site, all of which are clearly visible in the aerial photographs. As I hope is obvious to you from the extensive opposition, there is clearly a fair argument here that putting a slaughterhouse and a chicken farm on an elevated pad in the midst of several family farms and residences will cause significant negative impacts to the aesthetics of the area. Issue number 2 that I want to address, and you've asked good questions about this, but I don't think you've gotten good answers. And that's with respect to the odors and air quality issues. I urge you all to look at the letter from the Air Quality Control District, because the way that is being characterized is not what it says. For one thing, there is no mention of odors at all in that letter. And this is a glaring and concerning omission. And it relates directly to the impacts of this slaughterhouse and chicken farm on air quality and odors to these nearby residences. A fair argument has clearly been made that putting this operation adjacent to or near residences will have a significant negative impact on the environment in the form of odors, flies, etc. These problems are obvious to neighbors and their opponents and other opponents, and should have been the central focus of any legitimate study. However, the study supporting the application not only fails to undertake the significant analysis and consideration of these issues as the law requires, but simply ignores them altogether. In place of the detailed analysis and scrutiny of the environmental issues that the law says is necessary and that an EIR would clearly provide, the staff report represents to you that the Air Pollution Control District's February 6, 2020 letter concludes that the project would not exceed any of the district's significant thresholds. That's a false and misleading statement. Look at the letter for yourself. This Air District letter simply sets forth the very limited conclusion that this proposed project will not exceed any specific thresholds for certain air pollutants like carbon monoxide and nitrogen. Doesn't address the issue of odors in any way, shape, or form. Since the important information has not been provided by the staff, here is what the Air District rules actually say about thresholds for significance of odors. This is a quote, any project with the potential to frequently expose members of the public to objectionable odors should be deemed to have a significant impact on the environment. Another quote, odor impacts on residential areas warrant the closest scrutiny. The guidance from the Air District specifically identifies feedlots and dairy and rendering plants and food processing facilities as operations that, when located within 1 mile of residences, trigger a heightened analysis of the impact to those nearby residences. The proposed project has been described more than once and tonight as a feedlot. If the project would result in residences that are located closer than 1 mile to the project, and if you recall, the aerial you were showed at the outset only showed a concentric circle that went out 3,000 feet. If the project would result in residences located closer than 1 mile to the project being impacted by odors, a more detailed analysis should be provided. The impacts of project-related odors within a 1 mile, residences within 1 mile have not been analyzed at all, let alone with a high level of additional scrutiny expressly required by the Air District rules. Finally, issue 3. I've heard it said tonight that the Right to Farm ordinance endorses this project or supports this project. Wrong again. It's not a justification for the failure to conduct the required environmental reviews. The ordinance does not relieve the lead agency's obligation to comply with applicable CEQA requirements. More importantly, your ordinance code, section 6-9002, has language which specifically confirms that it applies only to existing agricultural operations and not to newly proposed agricultural operations such as this one. Given the issues and concerns raised by the residents, we frankly don't understand the rush to act on this project based on a flimsy and defective negative declaration. The environmental issues raised are significant and have not been adequately evaluated. However, they can be addressed through a proper environmental impact review if the staff is directed appropriately. We're not looking for litigation, just asking that the concerns which are raised by multiple parties are not just pushed aside without the careful consideration and review that is always required by CEQA. One of the important things about that environmental impact report is it includes a mitigation monitoring plan, which is a rule book for how you keep track of the fact that all of these conditions that are being imposed are actually complied with. So I'm asking you to additionally ask yourself, sure, we have all these conditions. On a daily basis, who's going to make sure that those conditions are being complied with? Or is it going to be responsibility of the neighbors to run down to the code enforcement division of the county and ask them to enforce these conditions? So again, we don't have absolute opposition to this project, but the fact is the environmental analysis that's been done so far just doesn't cut it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
You saw there were other participants that looked they wanted to speak on the project. Making note of that, next up on the list, we had El Ormond, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You might need to mute your speaker or whatever device you're listening to the meeting on.
Mute that one. Yeah, this is Linda Armandi, and as far as the chicken raising goes, that is a farming operation. In my mind, 1,000 chickens in a dry lot situation is more intensive than if you were to have your pasture raised egg layers out on pasture and then they'd come in at night, or you would have mobile units to put those chickens in at night out on the pasture. Those are the normal ways that those pasture raised chickens are raised, and egg layers are pasture raised, where they go out on the pasture during the day and have free access to the laying house or to mobile laying houses. And 1,000 chickens out on pasture is not unheard of, and it wouldn't be a great problem. But 1,000 chickens in a confined house and in a dry lot, free-range dry lot, is a whole different situation. Because in the pasture-raised situation of egg layers, where they have actual pasture to pasture on, they're moved as the pasture grows and are in a rotation. And so that is not a big bother to me. It's the bother of the dry lot situation of the egg layers or the confined houses. The confined house that you have designed is the minimum amount of room for 1,000 chickens. If you were to take those 1,000 chickens and put them inside and they had to stay inside, you have basically the minimum floor space for each chicken. Now, as far as the slaughterhouse goes, I am opposed to the slaughterhouse because it's not something that I just don't see that slaughterhouse as being something that would be compatible with the operation. This whole thing you guys are going with on the chickens, well, what if the chickens don't work out and they decide to start doing broilers and kill broilers? If you're going to have 1,000 broilers, if you had the capacity to have 1,000 broilers, that would mean that you would have, that'd be 12. Every 12 weeks, you could kill off 1,000 broilers. So that's more than one slaughter a day. And I suppose that the slaughter is going to be mostly for the sheep, the goats, and not the chickens. But what's he going to do with the dead chickens? And well, not dead chickens, chickens that have been laying for a long time. Those are usually processed as people used it, back in the day when everybody had a few chickens in their yard and you had Sunday dinner, it was a chicken. You went out there on Sunday morning and went and started processing your chicken you were going to have for dinner. But 1,000 chickens is a lot of chickens. But the slaughterhouse is my big problem with the whole concept of this project. The animal raising, I mean, if you did go down the road around here, everybody's got their horse and some chickens and maybe some goats. Hopefully they're out on pasture. Hopefully it's irrigated pasture so that it grows and doesn't make a lot of dust. Because if you have those free-range chickens out on the dry lot, there's going to be dust. As far as the litter or the manure from those chickens, I don't know if they're thinking they're going to go and just rake it up underneath the roofs in the house, or they're going to rake it up off the ground. I don't know. But it's a lot messier when you have dry ground or wet ground, because in the wintertime, some of those chickens aren't going to want to go outside. But the management of the chickens inside the house is a deal where a lot of producers that have those chickens that are free range come in and they have litter underneath those roofs that they use as a compost and clean out when the time comes that they need to clean them out. Anyway, my biggest opposition to the whole thing is the slaughterhouse, animal raising. I mean, it can be lucrative in some ways, and then other ways you're going to be spending a lot of money and not getting anything in return. And so I guess that's all I got to say right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Continuing on with the list of participants that we had noted that were looking to interact, with Diana Alves.
Hello? All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please address the commission.
Thank you. I wanted to just, first of all, thank all parties for the new information provided and in the manner in which it's been presented. It was very nice to have that for a change. I want to address the concept of right to farm and some of these environmental concerns that seem to just be not really addressed. When you live out in the country, and by the way, I'm a third-generation farmer out here, and our farmland, not only are our homes here within a close proximity to this project, but also our farming lands in our family are on Tomping, Delta, and MacArthur. So we surround this project and have a big interest in it. Farming, as we know it out here, is primary agricultural, and there is not odors 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You have odors at harvest, maybe when they're fertilizing for a couple of hours. Harvest might be a few days. But typically, there is no odor. There is no stench, like the stench that is going to be created by this project. And farming is not 7 days a week for the entire year. It's a few months. And yes, there is some land maintenance that goes on during the winter months and such, but really it's like a 6-month thing. It's not a 365 days, 7 days a week operation like this is. That is objectionable to me, the stench that this is going to create. The slaughterhouse, I'm horrified by. And it will be quite visible as I live directly east of this project, and I am downwind from this project. So the wind is going to carry that stench. It's going to carry any kind of pest. We know about diseases such as bird flu created by chickens. I'm quite frankly terrified of this project. I've heard it referred to as a small family farm. Small family farms that have animals do not require a slaughterhouse. They don't require most of what's going on here because people have a dozen chickens or they have a couple of goats or a couple of sheep. And if they have cattle, like in the past when I was growing up, we had cattle, but you know what? We took it to the butcher. We didn't build our own slaughterhouse. Why would you do that? And to only process one animal a day at the cost of building that, that doesn't even make sense. So my big concern and why I would like to see this other environmental study is who truly is going to follow up on all this. Because I don't see it happening. And you can say, oh yeah, the code enforcers will be out. Well, we all know I worked in healthcare. Do you know how often the code enforcers came out? Not too often. Some of them from the state were supposed to come out yearly. I worked in a company for 10 years and they came out one time. And that was because the rules changed. So please don't tell me how the code enforcers are going to be out. And that's all I have to say. And I thank you for your time.
As we have others listed in the lobby here for participation, we'll just be going down a list of names. If you are looking to participate, please unmute when I address you. And next up on our list of participants, we would have A. Costamanga. If you are looking to participate, this would be your opportunity to unmute and address the commission. You're not coming through clearly. I'm not sure if you can.
Mom lives there still. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please address the commission.
Okay, I apologize. My name is Anna Marie Costamagna Reeves, and I just wanted to go on record and state that I oppose this project. Our family owns properties adjacent and in the very, very close proximity on Tom Paine and Delta. And for all of the reasons stated, everyone before me, I oppose this project as well. Thank you.
Next in our list, Bill Barnhart. If you were looking to address the commission regarding this project, this is again item number 1, PA-1800316. This would be your opportunity to unmute and speak regarding the opposition of that project. No activity. We have Bradley Christie. If you are looking to speak regarding that project, the PA-1800316.
No, I did not have anything to say about that.
And continuing on, we had Ed Alves, if you were looking to speak to the commission. Continuing on, Gloria Costamanga. Jeff and Judy Case, if you're looking to address the commission regarding project PA-1800316. Continuing on from there, Joseph Costamanga. And lastly, moving on, we have two.
Project.
Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Okay. Yes, I just want to say that I do oppose this project, but most of the oppositions that I've had have already been brought forth here in the meeting.
Thank you. And moving on, we have two call-in participants here. Phone number ending in 9434. If you're looking to speak in opposition of this project, that's PA-1800316. Your time to unmute. I believe the command is *6 on the phone. Lastly, on the participation list, phone number ending in 1597. If you're looking to address the commission, this would be your chance to unmute and speak. I'm seeing no more participation for the public comments.
Thank you. Mr. Jolly, would you like to rebuttal on?
Thank you, Chair. Briefly, again, Brett Jolly for the applicant. I would like to note that on the issue of aesthetics that we heard from the first speaker and Ms. Alves, one of the aesthetic complaints that we've heard is that there's a big pile of dirt out there that the project is on top of. That's certainly not the applicant's doing. That applies to any new building out there in the flood zone. So anybody building anything, whether this project were to go forward or not, just having his house there or anything that's a ministerial approval is going to require there to be a large, I think it's 15 to 20 foot high, 3-acre mound of dirt out there. What's interesting is the shop and what we're calling the barn shop, and you've got the area for food processing within that, sits on top of that large pad. And the chicken coop and range area sits below that pad. It's on a slightly elevated pad. I think it's elevated about 3 or 4 feet as opposed to the 15 to 20 feet. But it sits on a pad that is on the western side of the large mound. Ms. Alves' property is actually on the eastern side of that mound. So I went out there and personally walked it, and when you're standing where the chicken coop and chicken range pasture is, you can't even see the Alves residence from there. You only see the Alves residence and property when you get up on top of that hill. And that hill isn't because of this project. That hill is required to do any type of building out there at all. It's also important to note that the 2004 case, Bowman versus City of Berkeley, noted that aesthetics is a slippery slope and is not necessarily going to be something that will require an environmental impact report to be prepared. Getting to that, environmental impact reports are not just required when there is controversy or when someone raises concern. I have litigated dozens of CEQA cases over the years, sometimes with Ms. Merrill. And the courts note that in order for there to be, and this is in the CEQA guidelines, in order for there to be the requirement to prepare an environmental impact report, controversy and concern are not enough. There must be substantial evidence of a fair argument that there may be significant impacts from the project. And while neighbors have said they are concerned about odor from the project, the staff and the agencies that have reviewed this have implemented substantial conditions to make sure that the manure is contained, both regularly collected and then stored and then hauled off site. The manure is going to be your likely biggest odor generator, and this thing has more manure mitigation on it and a manure management plan than just about any other farm out there of this size. So really, there is not, they have not met the legal threshold to require an environmental impact report. They haven't presented the evidence. But at the end of the day, this commission is looking at whether or not to approve this project at this location. And I again implore this commission to remember the fact that this is an agricultural product, an agricultural project in the agricultural zone, and it is a substantial distance from other residences out there. We understand that the folks that do live out there may have concerns. They have fear of the unknown, which is a different type of agricultural project going in there. The term slaughterhouse is really not an appropriate term. There is a 1,600 square foot area within the 4,000 square foot barn that will be used for the animal processing. and there was a question of what happens to those byproducts. They're going to get shipped off-site to the rendering plant. That's discussed in the staff report. There's evidence from the rendering plant saying that they are ready, willing, and able to take these processing. So the concerns and the questions that are raised by the neighbors are understandable because it's a new project coming to their area. But at the end of the day, those concerns have been fully addressed by staff and the regulatory agencies that have reviewed this, and we ask that this ag project be approved by the commission at its location. Thank you.
Questions? I had a question for the engineer if he'd come back.
I'm sorry, Chair Hamilton, did you ask for me?
No, for the engineer.
Mr. Wooten, could you come up?
Look at your plan here. You've got 3,200, am I correct here? 3,200 square foot of barn.
I say that again?
3,200 square feet of barn space?
Yes.
Okay. And what is square footage of the dry lot for outside?
$19,000 square feet. Sorry.
Inside, you're like 3.2 square feet per bird. Outside, you would be.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And is the outside pad all concrete?
No, that's going to be dirt.
Dirt. So heavy rains, where does that runoff go? That manure and runoff go?
Well, it's going to be raked up hopefully beforehand, because they'll be monitoring the weather.
A heavy rain. It's so wet you can't get in there. Rains tomorrow night.
Into his pasture.
Out to the pasture. That wasn't addressed. Get clarification.
It'll stay on his property.
It'll leave the project property.
Correct.
Actually, your slaughterhouse is 800 square foot big, more than your inside storage for your 1,000.
Slaughterhouse is 1,600 square feet.
Here you got 40 by 100.
Yeah, the slaughterhouse is in a 4,000 square foot building, but it's separated into a 2,600 square foot ag storage and office, and then 1,600 square feet will be for the slaughterhouse.
Okay.
For processing.
Okay, so combination office and general. Thank you. Any other questions? I got a question for John. The project is a single-phase project. It's not.
This is a single-phase project, yes, Commissioner.
So it has to be built out in 18 months.
The project itself, once the actual, if approved by your planning commission, they have 18 months to pull the first building permit. Then if the building permits are pulled, then they can final the building permit through that process. So just to note that we did recirculate this initial study through all the regulatory agencies back in December, and then we didn't receive any other further comments or any other issues from other agencies. So I just want to point that out.
I just want to throw out a scenario. So say after 12, 14 months, the project comes to a halt for some reason. What happens to that?
The permit itself, what we normally determine is once the building permit is issued, that actually satisfies the requirement to keep that permit alive. You're subject to making sure that you have orderly inspections and keeping it alive at that point. So there's no question in regards to if he comes in to pull the permit, has he done anything wrong or illegally? So.
Right, no. But what I'm saying is that projects.
He can always apply for a 1-year time extension.
Oh, he can.
Yeah. Just the one time for the 1-year time extension. That's correct. And he would have to come back. And he would have to come back to the planning commission to. And I know you're going to ask that next question. He has to come back to the planning commission to ask for that 1-year time extension. You're welcome.
John, is there any other zoning designation that you think this type of project would be more appropriate than the Ag 40, that what this is zoned as?
I'm going to remain neutral here and be Switzerland. I don't want to.
Oh, no, but I mean, as far as, I mean, as not an expert, this is one of the several.
Yeah, for animal processing itself, I mean, it is industrial zoning. You can allow for that, but chickens and chicken raising, there's agricultural zoning designation, AL, limited agriculture, and general agriculture, AG zoning.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Not, we'll close. Comments?
Yeah, I mean, we've had them jump through as many hoops as possible, has been put into the ringer one way or the other. I'm glad this thing comes to a resolution tonight. You know, you go and you buy a piece of property, you go to the planning department and you say, hey, this is my dream, this is what I'm looking to do. They say, yes, that's zoned for it. You go through with the thing, you run through the process, and there's always going to be neighbor opposition and such, but big picture is this is an ag community. This is an ag project. Heard from several families that are multi-generational farming families out there. I'm one as well. We got a person who's trying to do the same thing. You know, I'm very sympathetic to that. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of checks and balances. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Anyone else?
I have a comment. I feel like he has, you know, jumped through a lot of hoops to go through this, and I do feel that the staff has answered the questions. I do understand the concerns with the odors, but I do feel like they've been addressed.
Comments? Or do we have a
I'll make a motion to approve the mitigated negative declaration for this project and approve use permit number PA 1800316 of Ahmed Hussein.
I'll second it.
roll call?
Commissioner Grunsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Midgley.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanga.
Yes.
Commissioner Rushdaller.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton.
No. Motion passes 4-1. At this time, we'll take a 5-minute break. Oh, let me make an announcement that the appeal period for, I'll bring it back in and I'll let you know.
Dang. I think on the side over there. Yes.
Like your comments. I don't know.
One comment here. On the last item, the appeal period for that agenda item expires on March 15th, 2021 at 5 p.m. The appeal fee is $648. So our next item is site approval number PA 2200. Yeah.
Tonight we have Stephanie Stowers, senior planner, is going to present this item. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. This project is a site approval application to establish a truck parking facility for 2 trucks and 4 trailers as an accessory use. The site is located on the north side of Jayhant Road between State Route 99 and Kennefic Road in Galt, north of Acampo. The project has a general plan designation of AG, General Agriculture, with a tiny, tiny bit of OSRC, which is open space on the top of the property, north side of the property. It also has a zoning designation of AG 40, which is also General Agriculture with a 40-acre minimum parcel size. The project site is developed with an existing residence and accessory structures and is surrounded by agriculturally and residentially developed properties. There are also commercially developed parcels located on the west side of State Route 99 over here. So it is fairly close to a commercially developed area. So it's located between State Route 99 and Kennefic Road. And within this 1 mile block, there are 16 parcels that are less than 2 acres in size, many of which do front directly onto Jayhant Road. This is a copy of the site plan submitted by the applicant. So just to outline, the project is outlined, or the property is outlined in black around here. Jayhant Road is located here. The access driveway comes in about halfway down and through, and the project area is located in the center of the parcel right here.
Is there an applicant, the home for the applicant?
Yes, there is a residence located here. In December of 2019, the Code Enforcement Division opened a case for truck parking without a land use permit, as well as building without permit. The code enforcement officer observed 2 trucks and 8 trailers at the time of their inspection regarding the complaint. The property owner met with CDD staff from 3 divisions, code enforcement, building, and planning in January of 2020, and then applied for this land use permit in November of 2020. So the project proposes agricultural truck parking. This is a permitted use. It's considered an accessory use in the agricultural zones pursuant to special use regulations. So ag truck parking may be permitted for a maximum of only 2 trucks and 4 trailers, and they must be owner-operator use. So the owner or the operator of the trucks must live on site. The Community Development Department staff has observed numbers exceeding this number as recently as yesterday, March 3rd, 2021, when 3 trucks and 4 trailers were observed on site. The code enforcement and planning staff have done numerous site visits, and each time we have observed excessive trucks and or trailers. Additionally, although truck parking must be owner-operator only, the site has contained a large sign for advertising for drivers, which directly conflicts with the special use regulations. I would like to note that when I did the site visit yesterday, that sign had been removed, but it was there when I visited in January. So neighboring property owners have also submitted photos depicting an excessive number of trucks and trailers, stating that they have observed up to 6 trucks and 10 trailers on site. Based on staff's observation and comments from neighboring property owners, CDD was unable to make the necessary findings for approval as the existing use conflicts with the adjacent land uses, and even if reduced, CDD staff believes that the use will continue to conflict with the largely residentially developed area. So the Community Development Department has received 4 letters in opposition from 3 neighboring property owners. Each neighbor is located within 1,000 feet of the proposed truck parking area. They have stated concern regarding traffic, air quality, noise, land use compatibility, and inconsistent scope of the application compared to the existing operations. Regarding traffic, the application was reviewed by the Department of Public Works and staff provided standard comments. The project site is located on Jahant Road, which per the Department of Public Works meets the minimum width requirement of 20 feet of paved roadway. However, Jahant Road is not an STAA route, and the application states that STA trucks are not proposed. However, STA trucks have been observed on site, and a neighbor has submitted photos depicting trucks that appear to be STA trucks parked on site in January of 2021, and I also observed trucks that appear to be STAA parked there yesterday. Regarding air quality, the project was referred to the Air Pollution Control District and no comments were received. However, the project is subject to the rules and regulations of the APCD, and so as a result, no significant impacts are expected from this proposed use. Regarding noise, the application does not specifically specify noise expected from the proposed operation other than trucks and the use of an air compressor. However, neighbors have stated that trailers parked on site have included refrigeration units which continue to run around the clock even while parked. The noise from these trailers has created a constant noise impact on neighboring properties, and because truck parking is an outdoor use, providing mitigation to limit the impact of noise on neighbors is not feasible. As a result, noise does and will continue to create noise impacts on neighboring residences, some located as close as 300 feet from the proposed parking area. Regarding compatibility, the project site is surrounded by parcels. The project site and the surrounding parcels are zoned AG40, which has a 40-acre minimum parcel size. However, within a half-mile radius of this property, only 3 parcels meet that zone minimum size. The subject property is 9 acres, and the majority of the surrounding parcels are under 10 acres in size and do not appear to contain active agricultural uses, as parcels of this size generally are not viable for commercial farming operation. As a result, this vicinity has been developed as primarily residential uses, and although truck parking may be consistent with the agricultural zone, the existing developed nature of this area is not compatible with truck parking, even at the limited scope of 2 trucks and 4 trailers. Regarding scope, the proposed project in the application of 2 trucks and 4 trailers is inconsistent with the current operations on site. And neighbors have expressed concern that upon approval, the facility will continue to operate above and beyond the permitted numbers. The owner was made aware that even with a permit, the maximum number of trucks that may be permitted on site is 2 trucks and 4 trailers when meeting with planning staff in January of 2020. However, even with this knowledge and the open code enforcement case, the owner has continued to exceed these numbers, which has concerned neighboring property owners. Even with the approval of this site approval, the code enforcement case will remain open until the site is brought fully into compliance, reducing the number of trucks and trailers to a maximum of 2 trucks and 4 trailers permanently. So this is a map that depicts the location of the residents of the neighbors in opposition. This was included in the staff report, but, oh, sorry. The subject parcel is located here, and the 3 neighbors in opposition are marked with stars. And
Could you point out the other neighbors?
so there's one here, and a one down here.
Are other neighbors surrounding that property other than those 3?
In opposition,
Oh, just general.
so there are many small parcels located right here off of Jayhant Road.
How many is many?
So in this 1 mile stretch, there's 16 parcels that are less than 2 acres in size.
1 mile stretch?
Yeah. So in here you can see that this is Jayhant, obviously. This is State Route over here. And then Kennefic and the train tracks are located here. In order to approve a site approval, 5 findings must be made in the affirmative. The Community Development Department staff was able to make 3 of the findings in the affirmative, including consistency, which is with the general plan and other applicable plans, improvements, meaning on and off-site improvements are adequate to serve the project, and site suitability, that the project is of a size to physically support the proposed development. However, based on the analysis discussed previously, staff was unable to make the findings that the issuance of the site approval would not be detrimental to adjacent properties and that the project is compatible with adjacent land uses because of the number of small parcels in the vicinity and the intensity of the proposed use. Draft findings have been included in your staff report packet. As a result, the Community Development Department must recommend that the project be denied. So this is a photo of the project site. This is from, so Jayhant Road is located just out of view of this photo here. And in this photo, you can see 1 truck and 1 trailer parked behind and kind of to the west of the existing residence. This photo is taken from an adjacent property looking at the project from the east, looking west at the property. In this photo, you can see 3 trucks and 4 trailers parked, and this was taken yesterday. So even with the approval of this application, the maximum number that you could park would be the 2 trucks and the 4 trailers. I also included a photo of the sign that was witnessed on the site. However, this was hung on the fence adjacent to Jayhant Road. As I noted, this has been removed as of my site visit yesterday. Thank you. That concludes staff's presentation.
Any questions for staff? Staff recommendation?
It is recommended that the Planning Commission deny site approval application PA 2000200 based on the inability to make the findings, finding D, issuance not detrimental, and finding E, compatibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Was the applicant or the applicants come forward? State your name and address, please.
My name is Dale Coase. My address is P.O. Box 326, Tracy. Members of the Planning Commission, Chair, representing Leadhar Transport Incorporated at 5501 East Jayhant Road in Acampo. The owners are requesting an approval for a conditional use permit for the purpose of operating a trucking operation involving up to 2 semi-trucks for hauling up to 4 trailers. All are to be located on the site in question. And at this time, I'd like to call the owner up. She really doesn't want to speak, but I know that you'd like to hear from her, and I've told her, please be prepared.
All right, name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Pina.
I'm excited to finally have found my home in the country, raise my 2 children while operating a trucking company. I am requesting an agriculture trucking permit. It has to come our attention that some neighbors are complaining about this. They claim our truck and trailers are adding too much traffic to this area. I disagree that my trucking company can have that effect on our neighborhood. I have researched my area. There is a lot of other companies near me. Before the purchase of my house, saw truck and trailers around the property. Attached is a list of the companies that may be the cause of the amount of truck and traffic in the area. I made the purchase of new home and property. Since our purchase, we have been making improvements. Before the purchase, the property was look abandoned. I have put a lot of money and hours try to get the property a livable state and improvable look our property. This type of remodel requires truck to deliver a lot of materials. I have purchased multiple loads of recycled asphalt and concrete from George Reed Inc., which is located on J. Hunter Road. The deliveries have made my driveway more presentable and accessible. We have installed fences, fire hazard, and dry grass have been cleaned up and removed. We have been planting fruit trees and vegetables. I want to continue to fix the house so we can move in. I think property will be pleasing from the street. I love the appearance of our neighborhood. The home 5420 is a great example for very well maintained property in front of the street. I'm sure this look took many years to complete. This property still has scrap material truck and trailers. My property will be someday look as good as that does. Right now, we are feeling the financial impact and try to deliver produce from farm to nurseries. It is very happy to enjoy this community and do not want to any neighbors problems with any of my neighbors. I promise to remain respectful as neighbor. Please consider the amount of revenue my company can bring to community. Please reviewing my request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. To continue, the area is rural in nature, and it is noted that staff has received letters in opposition to the approval of the conditional use permit. One property owner stated, "This letter is a voice of opposition to this project. This is agricultural property, and this company, although is applying for an ag truck parking, is not an agricultural business. Their truck and trailers are not hauling agricultural products. Their trailers are all refrigerated." I was hard-pressed to think of a reason for a refrigerated trailer. Pretty much, ag is food, food is ag. The only newest thing that I can think of for a refrigerated trailer is with the COVID vaccines to have a super cold temperature to move that product. These refrigeration units are not designed for that super cold temperature. They may be hauling some food products, but they are a commercial entity, not agriculture. There are approximately 7 to 8 trucks and 10 to 12 trailers that go in and out of the property daily. Yesterday, January 12th, I counted 12 rigs entering and leaving the property between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. There are currently 11 trailers parked on that property. The owner is agreeing to the conditional use permit under the approval process, which would limit that to 2 trucks and 4 trailers. He doesn't have any problem with that. Trucks are a hazard and a nuisance to our area. The drivers pull out in front of people traveling Jayhant Road. Traffic is continuously slowing to a crawl as the trucks enter and exit said property. I asked staff if there are any traffic counts to be associated with tonight's presentation. Senior planner, who just gave you the report, said that would be a question for Public Works. She forwarded my question to Public Works, and Chris Halen of the San Joaquin County Public Works Department stated in an email, for this project, there was no traffic impact study required as part of this planning application, as it did not meet the threshold to require one. And in my statement here, if you want the guy's contact information, phone number, I'd be happy to give it, but I would assume that staff has that information. This is not an area that allows commercial businesses, and exemptions must not be granted for this company. Stephanie, could you pull up that site? That one. We can go ahead and use that. If we look at the subject property and we go immediately to the west, we see a number of large buildings that that property fronts on Jayhant Road. Looking at a Google area of the area shows some type of commercial buildings to the immediate west of the subject site, which means that if the business has received the required county approvals, there is at least one commercial business allowed in the area. If we go further west to 99 there, we can see that interchange. There are a number of businesses at that interchange. The opposition states, I've talked to some people closer than I am. They say they can hear diesel refrigeration units running all night. I'm assuming that the letter writer is again using hyperbole because the refrigeration units shut off when the interior has cooled to the required temperature and then kicks on again later on when the temperature rises. The Thermo King has a specification sheet that says that double decibel level is 72 decibel for a low and 80 decibel for a high. I'll get to the things that I think are important with that might be associated with additional conditions. They hear backup alarms on trucks and forklifts day and night. They are bothered by the truck headlights at night as the trucks are changing trailers. If it would work out better, the owner is amenable to putting light standards out there with shades as required by the California Energy Commission, and that would take care of the lighting, but at that point it's going to be much brighter in that area than it would normally be just by, say, the use of a truck headlight. Conditions of approval: 2 trucks and 4 trailers are agreeable to the property owner. Any business-related signs must receive a county approval. Had a short conversation with staff about the sign that you saw in the picture. I'm thinking, and this is just me, noises louder than 65 decibel from refrigerated equipment may not cross a property line. Usually, I know in Tracy that we've got an ordinance that says you can't have something that is more than 65 decibels crossing that property line. Where these trucks are located, they're pretty far removed, which would be on the order of about 200 foot from the closest property line. I think that could be made a condition without too much of a problem. I would suggest hours of operation be Monday through Saturday from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Property owner wishes to also install mobile home previously removed without a required demolition permit. Planning staff, in my conversation with them, thinks it might be doable. It is not assured. Be able to put that a mobile home as far as an office out there again, but a permit would need to be applied for and approved before any of that could happen. It would be located on a different portion of the property than it originally was, using the same septic system. No new structures not already existing are contemplated without required approvals. Because of this, it is requested that no soil suitability study as requested by County Health Department be required unless a new structure other than an accessory dwelling unit permitted. I briefly talked with health staff this evening, and they said we would need to discuss that further in order to be able to arrive at some agreeable solution if it came to that. With that, we respectfully request a conditional use permit be approved for this property, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr.
Yeah, I hate to project on the letter of opposition, but I believe what I imagine they were talking about is kind of first point processing ag trailers versus van, which would be secondary from a processing plant. You know, sets of doubles and hoppers that come straight out of the field, operate for a couple months out of the year, and then stay at the subject property. Vans are generally used year-round, constantly. It gets pretty hot as far as things running 24/7, a van trailer. It gets pretty hot here in the summer, so if it gets very possible that those things were running 24 hours a day. So I just kind of have an issue with the particular actual equipment. And also, there was complaints originally. The applicant didn't come for this permit originally, correct?
That's correct.
There was code enforcement twice? One time? So I guess my question is, why didn't your applicant come to get a permit appropriately from the beginning?
I could easily answer that because I've been doing this for 50 years. Most applicants that I've had to deal with are very afraid to go to any government agency to request or get a permit for a required operation. They tell me things like you heard this evening. This lady is deathly afraid of public speaking. She does not like it. I've been getting permits since I was 16 years old. I don't have any problem with it. And I've told people, if you need a permit, go get one. I'm afraid to, because I don't know what they're going to say. And I, for years, have told people like the city of Tracy, hey, people are deathly afraid of you. They're deathly afraid of what you're going to take from them. Why don't you extend your hand, introduce yourself, and say, hey, what do you got? Let's see what you need and how we can help. And it just goes everywhere that some people, okay, no problem, we'll do that. And other people, I recently sat at one conditional use permit hearing. I was there when the people were sitting at the planning desk for Tracy. They were told, oh, no problem. Sure enough, there was a problem. They got my name and asked if I would help. So I did. Staff tells me what the problems are. Well, we originally approved this under this item number for planning, but it didn't fit within that, so we had to change it. I think those people were not deathly afraid ahead of time, and they came in there to try to do the right thing, and it still came back to bite them. And this is the typical of that. A lot of people, I don't even know that I needed a permit. I was having a discussion today with the property owner, and I said, by the way, did you get a permit for plumbing? Did I need one? All I did was change this out. Technically, yes, you do. Do most people get one? No. How do I know? Because I get called in afterward to protect people from code enforcement or to help them through the process to get their approvals. So
Gotcha.
as far as I can tell, I get two types of clients. One, they think they're really going to be smart by not getting a permit. Majority, they are afraid to get that permit. And that's why I'm here to help. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Coach, the applicant stated that they haul a lot of gravel and rock for George Reed. That's supposed to be an ag operation? George Reed is general.
Let me ask that question. You guys, you get concrete from them? Okay, do you haul that stuff from them?
I think she got it for her yard, essentially.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So there's 2 trucks and no employees.
And I saw that on the thing there, and my request would be modified. I would request up to 2 employees because her husband is the guy that does the wrenching on the trucks, the mechanic. And I could see easily the guy's tied up, his son's giving him a hand. Probably going to have someone drive that vehicle.
Let me ask you this. So yesterday, I believe Stephanie was out there and took a picture, and there's 3 rigs out there. And we're applying today for 2 vehicles. Why not clean it up and show good faith that the rules are going to be followed instead of basically making us question if they're ever going to be followed if something was approved? Why? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
One of the things that I find happen is just what happened right now. We all speak English. We're all on the same page, and we're still not communicating. I walked out there at the beginning of the week. I looked it over, and I said, "You have to take that sign down." He goes, "Right now?" And I said, "Yes." Okay. And I said, "I'm counting 5 trucks right now. You need to move 3 of those off this place right now." He goes, "Well, one of them doesn't work. One of them, we're just waiting to move it over to this other location. And the other one, we're going to move it. It just, they're out here." And I said, "You need to do it right now." Then I counted up the number of vans. And I said, "You are exceeding what potentially would be a conditional use permit approval. You cannot do that. You have to comply with these rules. Otherwise, they approve it, and you go out and do something else. Now you've done is irritate everyone. Code enforcement is going to be back out here, and they are going to start shooting you down, just like they shot you down on the initial conditional use permit requirement for exceeding the number of vehicles on the property and not having a permit for it. That also has to do with that building out there. Whomever, I don't know, just added an office and a restroom or bathroom. I said, "Okay, where are you on this?" And she said, "Well, it's going through code enforcement and building plan check." Okay, well, how comes it's not moved along? "Oh, the guy that was doing the work got COVID." Okay, how often does that happen? Well, a lot more than I thought, because I just found out day before yesterday that my attorney was at Tracy Hospital because he got COVID. I don't know, but I do know that the communication, unless I ask a question, the same question a number of times in a number of different ways, I just heard, "Hey, you haul rock and you haul concrete." Okay, do you really haul rock and haul concrete? No, we get them delivered to the site. It was clear to me right off the bat that you can't do that. And that's why I had to ask the questions again. And I find that I continuously have to refine my questions to get on the same page with people. Because I should understand this. I'm a smart guy. And yet, for as smart as I am, I'm a babe in the woods still.
Any other questions for Mr. Coase?
Yes, I do. Mr. Coase, actually, it's for the applicant. Talking about the language barrier, she speaks pretty good English. She read what she had written. My main concern is, I'm talking to the applicant there, having a business, you have to get business permits, you have to get so much stuff. You obviously understand English and write and speak English pretty well, me being in business myself. Especially when the code enforcement says something, and we see that it was done last year in 2020, we are in 2021. Even after that, code enforcement as of yesterday just saw the violation. That is like, okay, I'm sorry, I don't want to be too blunt, but I'm known for being blunt.
No,
it's not that I'm
don't.
sorry.
No question. It works better. The more direct we are, the more we
Right, so it's not like I'm sorry because I'm sorry. I'm sorry because I got caught. And being on Planning Commission before, I understand, definitely coming from Tracy, both of us, there are people who are definitely scared. That is not the question. People are scared coming to the commissions and coming to the council and talking. But repetitively, when the same mistake is made, once mistake is made, you can understand it's a mistake. Couple times, yeah. But when it's very clearly dictated, first of all, the permit was not even obtained. Second of all, the question came to light after code enforcement went there. Third, even after code enforcement told them not to do it, it kept going on unless you went there and told them. This is in another area. Are we going to be counting on you to go tell them every time not to do something? Because obviously when code enforcement told them, it wasn't followed through.
My response to that would be, I'm not a shrinking violet. I've got a big mouth. And I walk up to people and I say things that they don't want to hear, period. And in her case, I have not gotten the impression from her that she didn't want to do anything but cooperate. And in the letter that she read to you guys, to the Planning Commission, she said, I want to be a good neighbor. I want to be respectful. You don't hear that often. And code enforcement, I know almost everyone down there on a first name basis, and I've had them tell me, God, I wish I could give your name out because you seem to do a fairly good job of resolving these code enforcement issues. At least people listen to you.
Any other questions for Mr. Coase?
I'm nobody.
Need to move on.
Okay.
I have a question for somebody from here from Public Works. Can you answer me a question? You've been out there?
I've driven by the site.
Okay.
Want me to go?
Yeah, please. On that site, can these trucks come on to Jayhant Road without crossing over the white line?
Yeah, so one of the conditions of approval for Public Works is to build a standard driveway to the R17 standard in the San Joaquin County Improvement Standards. So that will allow trucks to safely make turning movements onto and off of the site.
That way now, my question was, is that way now?
Well, there wasn't an operational analysis included in that, so I wouldn't be able to make a determination on that.
All right, thank you. Or anyone else wants to speak in favor of this project? If not, or anybody oppose this project like to speak?
If we had anyone who is attending the meeting through the Microsoft Teams interface that wants to speak in opposition, this is item 4, number PA-2000200. This would be your moment to address the commission. I am seeing no participants via the Teams meeting.
Thank you. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Comments?
Jennifer, is this, not to jump ahead of the truck parking, but this is outside the 1,500 feet radius that we are talking about being briefed on next, correct?
Approximately 3,300 feet east of 99.
Gotcha, thank you.
I have a problem with this project and application because my 10 years on the commission, 10 plus, whatever it is, 2 or 3 of these come through almost every year. give these people an application or a permit to have a truck or two for ag use. The next thing you know, they're hauling gravel or other products, and a lot of them can't get out of their driveway without crossing the white line, and several of them they have to go across the road completely when they're loaded. 16 homes being in a residential area, I think this is a good.
I agree, and I think the future truck parking study session kind of shows more to the direction that I think is appropriate.
Comments? Motion?
Make a motion, we approve the recommendation by PDD to deny the site approval for PA 20000200.
Second?
Seconded.
To deny the site approval.
Roll call.
Commissioner Ridgely? Commissioner Roostaller?
Yes.
Commissioner Grunsky?
Yes.
Commissioner Sanga?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes. Motion passes 5-0. The appeal period for this agenda item expires on March 15, 2021 at 5 p.m. The appeal fee is $648. Okay, we will move to other business. Let's move into our truck parking study session.
So while I am giving a presentation, I'd be happy at the end of every slide to stop and discuss and answer questions or just hear your feedback. So we really appreciate you guys taking time to do this tonight. We're excited that we're here, at least to kick it off. I envision many more discussions and meetings with stakeholders and the commission. However, we've got to start somewhere, so that's where we're at tonight. So thank you very much. When planning staff started to meet, we had to try to wrap our heads around where we would want to see potential truck parking. Really, we're going to look at truck parking locations as well as truck sales. As you all know, there's a great shortage in San Joaquin County of locations to offer these truck parking and truck sales. So we looked at along the major interchanges of I-5, State Route 99, I-205 and I-580, and then looked at major cross sections, as an example, Peltier Road, Woodbridge Road, et cetera. This is really stemming from not only the Commission's desire to look at this issue, but back in 1718, the grand jury provided a report that identified illegal truck parking as a great concern in San Joaquin County. That report then asked, as a suggestion, that we hire an additional code enforcement officer to address illegal truck parking. That was done. However, it didn't address finding potential locations to solve the problem. It basically just hired additional staff to identify the issue and to open code enforcement against people who were illegally parking their trucks. So we have some enforcement history here to kind of put it into perspective. I'm going to turn that over to Corinne King, who is the code enforcement manager. And if you have any questions regarding enforcement, we can discuss that right now.
Hi, good evening. So we'll
have questions about enforcement or no? Okay.
I got a quick question. All right, so basically up and down the motorways here, somebody parks their truck. Are we talking about them illegally parking, or we're talking about them setting up a place for selling a truck or trailer or whatever?
Well, we would be addressing, with this amendment, we would be addressing anything on private property. If it's just someone that pulled over on the side of the road and is just parked there, CHP will handle that, and they'll go out and make sure they're not parked there more than 72 hours. But we're handling everything that's on private property.
To give you a little bit of background, the two specific use types that we're looking at are truck sales and services parking and truck sales and services sales. So quite a mouthful. The services aspect is basically for these two uses, what we envision is that if we're looking at potential locations, it would be not only for parking, but ancillary repair of trucks that are parked there. Same with the sales. If you're selling trucks, then you could potentially repair those trucks on site. But there is a third use type in the code that is truck sales and services, which seems redundant, but it's basically so that you can service anyone's trucks. You all could bring your trucks to my site and I would repair them. So we're excluding that use type from this discussion. However, we do understand that people who have parking, truck parking and truck sales will do some sort of repair of the trucks at the same time. Just wanted to clarify that. Currently, you can do either parking or sales in a number of commercial zones, industrial zones, and even in the airport zone with a land use permit. And basically, staff put our heads together and we came up with the idea that it might be a good idea to create a new zone. We envision it calling it the agricultural industrial zone. It's intended to be kind of a transition zone for low impact dry uses such as truck parking and sales on existing agricultural parcels that are maybe not viable anymore due to a variety of reasons that we'll get into in just a minute. One of the things we do want to consider through these study sessions is what the threshold should be to require a ministerial permit. So a ministerial permit means that it's not subject to environmental review. It's not discretionary. It's not subject to notice of the neighbors. And you basically have to meet certain development regulations, such as, we have to determine what those are going to be, but you'll have certain surfacing requirements and setback requirements, things like that. We can also consider if you exceed a certain threshold to be determined, requiring a discretionary permit. I know that the ultimate goal is to make this as simplified as possible. So when we're thinking of different parameters to use for development regulations, we want to keep in mind that we're still always balancing the needs of the trucking operation and then the people surrounding it, keeping in mind that this really, the agricultural industrial zone will still have an underlying general plan designation of agriculture. So when we put together all these parameters that I'm going to get into in just a minute, we ended up with 161 potential parcels that might work for either truck parking or truck sales. This is not a great map, but I did want to give you a visual. It's also in your staff report or in your report tonight. And it's basically, when we were trying to show you potential areas on one map, the parcels ended up being like dots. So if you just look at the pink areas and it looks kind of like a cloud, that's because there are a number of parcels in that area that could potentially qualify, but they're not specifically looked at on an individual basis. So when we get further down the road, we will be looking at specific parcels and changing zoning of parcels. So we would blow that up for you so you could see specifics. But you can kind of see a lot of it is along 99, and it's in the northern part. There is some down in the southern part by Manteca. And then on the I-5 area, you will see between, I want to say Lathrop area, and then going north all the way up to on your way to Sacramento County. And there are a couple of areas off of 205 and 580 as well. So the potential locational criteria that we used when we were trying to narrow it down to this 161 parcels, we looked at potentially allowing it in all agricultural zones, meaning they currently have either an AG, AL, or AU zoning, and then we would look at changing that zoning to an AI designation, with the intent that the AI would allow all uses currently allowed in the agricultural zone, but with these extra couple of drier uses related to trucks. So we were also interested in how many of these parcels that we identified had existing residences, and we found that 96 of those parcels do have residences on it. We also envision not taking away the opportunity for people to build a home on the property and have a trucking operation as well. We were interested in finding out, we're still not sure what size is the right size, and we're hoping you can help us with this, with your expertise. We looked at 1 to 2 acres, there were 49 parcels. We increased it 2 to 5, that added 61 more, and then we went all the way up to 10 acres, adding 51. So you can see with that breakdown, you get a pretty even amount in all, in those different breakdowns. So Commissioner Grunsky and I were talking a little bit about viable farmland, and he obviously has much more experience. I am not a farmer by any means, and mentioned that a viable piece of farmland could be even 5 acres. So if the commission, that's something that we probably should discuss. What's the right size, what's the right cutoff where you feel like you may not have a viable piece of farmland anymore. 10 acres is a big piece of property. It's definitely farmable, but if that's something that the commission thinks is a good idea, we can go that route. So that's why we kind of broke that down for you, so you could see how many that would remove from the 161 if we decided to put 5 acres as the cap. The other thing, we worked with our GIS staff, and it was very helpful. They were able to determine how many parcels. They basically went from the center line of the interchange, so right smack in the middle of like I-5, and then when you had some of the interchange exits and entrances from the freeway that were very long, they tried to center that as well. So you do get some parcels that are a little bit out from the interchange due to the entering and exiting on the freeways. So we had 41 parcels within 500 feet, and then obviously it went up from there, with 1,500 feet being as far out as we looked at. And if the commission feels like you'd like to go farther than 1,500 feet, we can definitely run those numbers as well. But that's where we stopped for this kickoff meeting. Yes, sorry.
How did you determine with these parcels what's around them, like as far as neighborhoods?
Well, I would say that would be our second step in the study session. Once we kind of narrow down an idea of what the direction the commission would like to go, then we would really start to narrow it down, the location of the parcels that we think would qualify, and that's something we'd have to evaluate. I mean, we would be looking at every single parcel before we would change the zoning.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking, you might have some spots where you're going to need to go out to 3,000 feet, and you might need have some that are completely, it's just not appropriate because there's too many houses around there.
I think the space, 12 acres between something, because it's talking to James. If these trucks come in, and if the refrigerated trucks are going all night long, and it's quiet, and so
right,
town
will move, half mile.
Yeah, we're definitely going to want to be considerate of, some of these neighborhoods that are actual neighborhoods that are pink on this, just because of, for one, opposition, for two, some of these areas that are way more sparsely populated, you probably could go out a little farther.
Okay.
So instead of it might be more of a case by case than a blanket, just in general. But I think you're thinking the same thing. And just for food for thought, so any national trucking company requires a minimum of 5 acres. Just so if you're thinking UPS or FedEx, anyone like that, it's always 5 acres. 5 acres is generally the minimum for them to even look at the parcel.
Oh, good to know.
It's just something to keep in mind. So.
Great. Thank you.
You also take in road criteria? I mean, the strength of the road, the width of the roads?
So again, I would say that would be something that we do need to look into. At this point, when we ran the the list with kind of all of the different things that would exclude or include parcels. We stuck with just county-maintained roads at this point, so we did not, we don't envision providing AI zoning along any roads that are not county-maintained, but that's open for discussion as well. You do run into some other issues when you start to put them, say, like along Highway 12, because that is a cross interchange with I-5 and 99. And then you start involving Caltrans in your issuance of permits, and it does tend to get more complicated. So we did exclude highway cross sections and really just looked at the major exits and entrances off of the freeways. Most of them have, the big signs, and they're pretty well improved already. That's what we did so far.
The reason I asked that question, if you come off I-5 Thornton Road wide enough truck traffic.
Right, and that is something we would definitely have to look at that as we got a little bit farther down the road about what roads may or may not be appropriate. Right, yes. We just threw in the information about the STAA routes because we thought it was interesting. It's, as you heard tonight, I mean, it's just very common for people who are doing trucking operations to have STAA trucks. Maybe they don't realize they're not supposed to be driving on these streets or not. I really don't know if people don't know or they don't care. I'm not sure. But of the locations that we looked at, we found that only 19 of the 161 parcels were located along already approved STAA routes. There is a process to try to change a roadway to an STAA route. Again, that involves our Public Works Department and Caltrans, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Yes. So here are some discussion items where staff was kind of on the fence on how you may want to proceed. Williamson Act is one of the things that we just excluded. Williamson Act is it's very hard to make the argument that a trucking operation for sales or parking is agriculturally related. Now, they might be trucks that are used for agricultural, but Williamson Act is really more for farming purposes. So we did so none of these 161 acre parcels are under Williamson Act. So the primary, okay, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. There are two zones in the Delta. There's a primary zone and a secondary zone. And the primary zone is quite restrictive about what you can do in it. There is the Delta Protection Commission's Land Use and Resources Management Plan, which does pertain to the primary zone of the Delta. And it offers guidance and policy direction for land uses within that primary zone. When we ran these numbers, we found that only, I believe it was 4 parcels were in the primary zone. So we may want to consider excluding those, just because I think it's going to be a challenge to make the argument that it's water-based or agriculturally based to park your trucks. But we wanted to let you know that the facts. And then there's and that is mostly, in fact, the entire primary zone of the Delta is west of I-5, and it starts a little bit west, the line. And then, pardon?
Angel contests to this, that it's not a good road west of I-5 going out to the Delta, let alone for car traffic.
And then there's the secondary zone of the Delta, which is also runs along I-5 just west, very close to the freeway, and then it kind of runs south and into the southwest part of the county, down into the Tracy area, down around the 205, 580. But there's a little bit more flexibility in the secondary zone of the Delta, and so we could potentially consider those areas if you would like to. I think we would have a better chance of making the findings that it would be compatible in the secondary zone. And we actually only had 12 sites located in the secondary zone. Other than that, all the rest of them were outside of the primary or secondary. Let's see. So the AU stands for Agricultural Urban Reserve. There are many underlying general plan designations that go with the AU zoning. We call the AU zone a holding zone. It's holding for urban development in the future, most of the time when services are available. So when we're looking at long-term development, obviously people will be investing into these properties. So we do want to look at that underlying general plan designation, and it's our recommendation that we maybe exclude residential general plan designations because you don't want that conflict in the future if the properties do develop. But there are other things we can consider too. We can consider sunset clauses. We can, you know, so if it's something the commission wants to consider, we can come up with some ways to address that. But basically, of the 161 parcels, 21 of them had a residential underlying general plan designation. The rest of them were either commercial, industrial, or just agriculture. And finally, farmland is one of the main issues that we wanted to discuss with you because San Joaquin County has a number of farm classifications. Prime, farmland of statewide and local importance, and unique farmland are all in the kind of subcategory of important, being important. So whether or not we want to have truck parking on parcels that are still considered prime is something we should discuss. A lot of the parcels are, or have a portion of it. We can also consider a threshold, like if half of, 50% or more is considered prime, we don't want to consider that, or maybe we consider all of them. Because if we excluded any portion being classified as prime farmland, we'd get rid of 85 parcels. So that's a pretty good chunk of the 161. It does exclude it. So at this point, I think it would probably be worth a good discussion about how we should handle that situation. Does anyone want to discuss those issues? I don't mean to speed past it, so I'm happy to, if you guys want to discuss it, or I can keep going.
Taking it all in. Thank you.
All right. I know, it's a lot of information. So just to touch on the next step, what we would likely do, we obviously want to conduct some outreach with our stakeholders, but we wanted to start with the commission in an effort to kind of narrow down the direction first. Once we get your feedback today, we envision either providing the report we already put together or making the modifications based on your recommendations tonight. And then we would take that document and send that out to, we have a pretty comprehensive list for the development title update, so we would likely send a report out asking for feedback to all of those people, as well as anybody who's ever expressed interest in truck parking. We have a lot of people who call about that every single day. So we keep a running list of people who are interested in pursuing that. And in fact, I think one of them is on the phone tonight and will likely want to speak to you. And then after we get some feedback, we envision coming back for a second study session with you. We're not quite ready to just throw together an ordinance since this is such a big policy decision in the county. The more brainstorming and ideas we can have will make a stronger, better ordinance. So we would come back with a second session and likely invite more stakeholders to participate that evening as opposed to tonight. From there, we would prepare a draft ordinance, likely identify the parcels that we would like to have change the zoning. If you like the AI zoning idea, this is all pending, whether you guys like this idea or not tonight. And then we would come back and present you with our final plan, and it would ultimately you would make a recommendation to the board. So that's kind of the long-term plan. I envision hopefully coming back for a study session maybe in the next 2 months. And then once we complete that, we can kind of get the ball rolling, I think. But a big part of this will be outreach to stakeholders, outreach to you guys. And so that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I just had a comment maybe in the county all the way up to size truck stop, centrally located near almond processing. So if you look at, you may want to look at commodities in that area.
Okay.
A lot of row crops in Escalon, alt or whatever. Looking for ag truck parking where commodities.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It would help, it would just give an additional layer of trying to find the best place to do this zone. So yeah, that's a great idea.
Also, I don't know if it's possible, but we could also look inside of that bubble, the cloud, the pink cloud, how many residential homes are affected as well. You know, because like I said, I could see some areas that are already super heavy, you know, pretty industrial, probably can go out a little farther because they're not very densely populated.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, adjust from there. But this is like great stuff. I really enjoyed going through it. You guys did a great job. There's such a need for it. The other side of it is when it does happen, these are things that aren't projects that are 10 years out. You know, a truck owner or a small developer can develop these things quick, solve that truck parking crisis. County gets money immediately, dang there. And so it's a real win-win, and it solves a big problem. The two big things that we're going to be known for are already, but logistics and agriculture, and you got to have both. And I really like this being limited to the sections that you were saying. Not only, I was talking to Chair Hamilton about it, to those interchanges, and it could also cut down on basically past applicant that we just had, this little farther out ag trucking. You know, it'd be nice if it was just a little more centralized versus where it's appropriate, the interchanges, versus just your random 1 and 2s that never seem to stay 1 and 2 out in the country, you know, because a lot of people take the back roads and travel and all that. It gets a little more dangerous. But this is great stuff. It's been very educational talking to all you guys about it.
Another stakeholder might be your wineries to talk to where your grapes could be coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Post. And that's one reason, like, Sutter Home chose where they built, is because they have quite a few grapes, or quite a few, bottled quite a bit still in Napa, brought over to Lodi to be put in cases. Right now. Joaquin County and those.
That makes sense.
They're big stakeholders.
I was too when I started this. It was a little overwhelming on trying to figure out where to start with it. But once we started kind of brainstorming and it started to take a little bit of direction, and now we can start to fine tune that direction a little bit more. So appreciate your time. If any of you have any thoughts after tonight, please feel free to email me or call me and let me know, because this will be an ever-changing process for the next couple of months. It will morph into hopefully something really good for the county. So,
thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if there's anyone who, we did have a letter, it's in the notes for the evening, in support of the trucks study session, and I did hear his name earlier, so I don't know if you want to open this to the public for comments at all.
Project, right? That would be solved by this. It's like,
yeah, they're kind of a prime example of a piece of property that's not really farmable anymore, but it's a good location, and
yeah, I hope they get some help through this, whole process, because it's something that really is a no-brainer, right?
Right.
Thank you. And I want to take this time to thank staff for, I know it was a lot of work, but to pack it together. A lot to it. Thank you. Director report.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on, in terms of the report, just as a reminder, there is some available online training put out by the League of California Cities regarding the Planning Commissioners Academy. So if you are interested, if you can let Jennifer Dolly know, and we'll look at registering you for it.
I think Mr. Roostaller was interested in that, if I'm not mistaken. The training that we were talking.
Usually it's in person.
I'm going to do it.
Record it and send it.
I need the help.
it's hard to get excited about the virtual training, but.
So if you are interested, just let us know, and we'll get you registered. Then, just in terms of informing you of items that will be heard by the board, there is the commission in May of last year, actually, recommended approval of a development title text amendment for the ag mitigation chapter. It's been a while. What I will say, though, is that we took some time to go back to the Ag Tech twice, and particularly to address some questions that came up from the Delta Protection Commission and the Delta Stewardship Council. And working with County Counsel's Office, we are moving forward with the recommendation of the language that the Commission approved back in May. So we are scheduling that for March 23rd or maybe April, March 23rd, later this month. And Jennifer mentioned the letter that's attached as part of the notes in the evening by Mr. Christie, supporting the study session and his particular case. And then what I also want to point out then for the next meeting is that you do have two items for the March 18th meeting. One is the variance application to vary from 20 acres to 2 acres for minimum parcel sizes for a subdivision. And then you'll also have the annual housing element report that will be before you as well. And then on April 1st, the subsequent meeting for our Planning Commission, you do have two other items as well, a special purpose plan and development agreement. And this is still tentative, but for the application for a cannabis business park. And then finally, you also have a use permit for a roughly 22,000 square feet, 30-acre construction of a building for a, looks like a stable. It is a stable. Okay, stable. So that is it for my report for the commission. Thank you, Chair.
I will not be here for any of April meetings. I'm having back surgery at the end of the month.
Oh.
I'll be out for.
Wish you the best.
So, any other comments or questions? Not. Thank you. We're adjourned.